Strong Enough merch is now available. Go to strongenoughpod.com and see all the things that you can get to show your strong enough pride, as well as remind people and yourself that you are strong enough and you are worth it. Welcome to the Strong Enough podcast, where we talk about the challenges and celebrate the triumphs of people from all walks of life. I'm your host, Claudia. Today's guest is going to talk about mindset. She's going to share how she's been able to shift to a more positive mindset through a kidney transplant and the associated challenges. She's also going to share 5 tips that you can use today to help you through any challenge. Please help me welcome Shelby Hansen. Shelby, how are you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. As I was telling you a little bit earlier, I have been through some fun health challenges this week, but really, pulling through it. Ended up tearing a muscle in my calf while I was playing pickleball with my friends this week. And I just got back from the dentist, so half of my face is recovering from numbness.
And you can't even tell. You cannot even tell. I want to ask quickly about pickleball. It's all the rage now, right?
Yes, it is. So I live in Ohio and my husband's active duty military. So we lived here. This is our first duty station back in 2006. And before I had any kids, there was a group of ladies that would play racquetball together. And so I went and played racquetball with them. And we moved around the country, around the world, came back 15 years later. And this same group of ladies, and they're 20 years older than me, by the way, like they're still playing. They like never stopped playing, but racquetball was causing too many injuries, so they changed to pickleball. They're still getting injuries. I've gotten injured.
Right. Now you're getting injuries.
But I mean, mine was, it was just, I just reached for a ball and just my muscle just hit the floor wrong. So my foot hit the floor wrong. Anyway, but it's been really, really fun. And more than anything, just like the social engagement. I think that's the funnest part, is just rotating around, meeting new people. For me, especially learning something new, because it's really easy to keep doing the same things that you do and just stay in that comfort level. And so as I was starting to learn the rules of pickleball, I played tennis in high school. So I was like familiar with the racket, but it wasn't really great at racquetball and pickleball. I could see myself while I was playing, like just starting to beat myself up because I'm like, I should be better than this. And I was like, oh, this is so funny. This is what happens every time I learn something new. Like that negative self-talk comes in. And so it's such an opportunity when you're learning something new to be like, oh, I can just suck at this and I'm just doing this for fun. And so and it is really funny too, because when I tell myself, I'm like, you know what? It's okay for me to just enjoy my current skill level playing this. My body calmed down. And then I started playing better. So it's just so funny.
I love that. And, everything that you just said about pickleball kind of relates to a lot of what we're going to chat about today, but with life and not just
Mhm.
pickleball. So before we completely dive in, I know that some of our viewers and listeners already know you and absolutely love you. For those that don't know you, will you share a little about yourself?
For sure. So I'm Shelby Hansen. I am a life and health coach for women that experience chronic fatigue. I help them to get their energy back so they can do stuff like play pickleball and run triathlons if they want to. I had a kidney transplant almost 5 years ago. I was diagnosed with kidney failure when I was 31 years old, mama to 3 at the time. And I did experience kidney end stage renal disease while I was pregnant with my 4th baby, and that was a whole situation in and of itself. But he is healthy and amazing. He's in kindergarten right now, and married to the love of my life. We met in college, did grad school together. He finished his PhD. I'm done with formal education. I'll always be a learner. But we're back at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Ohio, and just loving life, just loving the stage that I'm in. I've got my oldest is in a high school. I've got a middle schooler, 2 elementary school kids, and as my health has improved, and actually it's kind of backwards. I decided to go back to work and to be an entrepreneur. And as I have done that, my health has improved as a result of that. I fully believe like living into my full purpose has really helped my body. So anyway, that's just a little bit about me. So I love kidney advocacy and especially have a heart for fighting racism in the medical realm. It especially shows up within kidney disease. I think one of my friends posted on kidney on her Instagram that 35% of African Americans will experience kidney disease in their life. It's just absolutely ridiculous. So, and just the stories that I've heard and that I could tell you, one of my big dreams is to help to end racism in medical care. So that's a little bit about me.
We have so much to dive into. Just with that little bit, I'm going to start with I have a knack on this podcast for bringing
Mhm.
on people who are vampires because there is no way that you have a high schooler at all. And I'm sure people are going to notice that as well, those who are watching. So let's just start with that and acknowledge that you clearly had this child when you were 10.
Yeah, right.
Moving on.
Well, and my husband and I celebrate our 20th wedding anniversary this year.
So you got married when you were 9. Okay. I mean, to each her own. It's totally
Yeah,
fine.
yeah. No, I did get married very, very young, and I kind of was ticked at my husband when I met him because I was like, "Dang it, wasn't supposed to meet you yet. Wanted to
I
meet
wanted
you
to
later."
explore and have fun and
Yeah, but with him, especially being in the military, we just did that together, and so it's been really fun. But yeah, we celebrate our 20th year anniversary, and I also turned 40 this year. So
well, congratulations
thank
on
you.
the anniversary first off, because it's very unheard of in this day and age for younger people to have been married that long. So
Yeah,
congrats on that.
thanks.
The next thing I want to dive into real quick is you talked about the racism or, particularly in kidney disease. And you
Yes.
shared a stat with me in our
Mhm,
previous conversation that I found unbelievable. Do you
mhm.
remember what that was? And if so, will you share that again?
Is it about the estimated GFR I'm like, my brain, my short-term memory.
Yeah.
About so something that is really incredible to me is that in order to qualify for the transplant list, that you have to have a estimated filtration rate, glomerular filtration rate of under 20. So your kidney function has to be under 20%. When I got my blood draws, I was at 19. So I qualified for the transplant list and I was put on it pretty immediately. People asked me that, my doctors were very quick to say, go get on the transplant list. If I was African American at that time, I would not have qualified for the list because of how GFR has been calculated in the past. It's starting to change, but the way that GFR was calculated was based on an antiquated, anecdotal, uh, just paper that some doctor had written in the 50s saying that Black people had they had a higher muscle mass naturally, inherently, which is part of that narrative of why of white people saying that it's okay to enslave people because they're genetically built that way, so they would want to be slaves, and it's disgusting and it's appalling, and that's what that was based upon. So there was a factor if in your blood when you would get your blood tested that if you were Black that you would have to be far sicker in order to qualify for the transplant list. So where my GFR was 19, theirs would have been like, I don't know, 23, 24. So they would not have qualified for the transplant list when I did. And to me, like it just makes me sick. In dialysis centers, it's filled with people of minority and also low socioeconomic status. It just is such a discriminatory disease. And people that are in dialysis, the doctors are not telling them to get on the transplant list because this is something I actually didn't share with you, but kidney disease, end-stage renal disease, is one of the very few disease processes that the government said, we will pay for everything. So if you are diagnosed with end-stage renal disease, you qualify for Medicare, no matter what age you are. Not Medicaid, Medicare. And
Wow.
because of that, dialysis companies have a monopoly because they can charge whatever they want and it will get paid. And they want to keep people on dialysis because it is a very lucrative business opportunity for them. And so they take advantage of the people that don't know enough to advocate for themselves to get better healthcare and better outcomes. And it's appalling. And it's talked about on many forums, but it needs to be brought to the forefront of of so many just people just don't know about this. Also, kidney disease is the ninth leading cause of death in the United States. I went and filled out a form for my for my muscle that tore yesterday. I went out and filled out a form at the doctor's office, and kidney disease wasn't even on the list of conditions. And there was like a page full of like 100 conditions. Kidney disease wasn't even mentioned on it. So it's just so anyway, that's just a little piece of where my passion lies. It should not be like that. The color of your skin should not determine whether you get adequate medical care or not.
Right, because had you had a slightly different ethnicity, you
Yeah.
might not be in the same position that you are
Oh,
today, having
I
had
wouldn't
your
be.
transplant and in the state that you are now.
Yeah, absolutely. I most likely would not have a transplant, and I I would have eventually qualified for the transplant list, but I had time accrued and built up. And so it's just and we don't also know exactly how kidneys are allocated. It's not a very upfront and easy to understand system. I was not on the kidney transplant list for very long. I was on it for 2.5 years because I had high antibody levels in my blood. I was 99% sensitized, which in layman's terms means that if there's 100 people out there, I would reject 99% of their kidneys because my body would attack them. So when I got my transplant, the doctors told me if you don't take this transplant, it could be another 10 years before we'd find a match for you. So anyway, but just like my outcomes would have been so much worse. And it's it's appalling. And it's the thing that nobody's talking about. Nobody even knows.
Well, we are sharing that with a few people at least
Yes.
today.
Yes.
So, what else are you doing to raise that awareness? Because I know it's very important to you to do that.
Yeah, well, I work with a company called actually the big company's Lifebold, but I work specifically for Transplant Life, and we are a platform that helps with advocacy for transplant patients. And also, they have innovation challenges, and the most recent innovation challenge winner for the nonprofit was the C. Allen Foundation with an incredible guy named Chet, and he lives in DC. And literally in the African American community, the Black community, they go around and knock door to door and talk about kidney disease. He has a whole line of salt-free seasonings because that just diet is and diabetes go hand in hand with a lot of the causes of kidney disease. It wasn't the cause of my kidney disease, but it's the majority cause. And so they go door to door and he is advocating. And so for me, it's uplifting the voices of people that are doing incredible things. Like there's Kindness for Kidneys too. That's a woman owned Black owned foundation that does incredible things for the kidney community. So um, as a white woman, I cannot speak for Black people, but I definitely want to uplift their voices and the amazing things that they are doing in their communities. Um,
I want to go back to kind of your beginning here of this podcast. And
yeah.
you were talking about all the stuff that you've been through this week, and you smiled through it all. And you kind of laughed and, like, oh, yeah, I have, a torn calf muscle and went to the dentist this morning. One of the things that I truly love about you is you do face all this adversity that you've been through
Mhm,
with a smile. And
mhm.
that is so hard for a lot of people to do. I
Yeah.
know for myself, when I was first diagnosed with chronic illness, I
Mhm.
did not have a smile on my face,
No.
and I spent, too long, a few years, longer than I should have in that victim-y state, in that
Oh, yeah.
area of, well, I guess, life is gonna suck now. I
Mhm.
guess I'm just
Mhm.
not ever gonna be able to do anything that I want. I
Mhm.
would love if you would talk a little bit about your progression
Oh,
to
yeah.
this amazingly happy person that you are now and how you really look at things from a positive perspective when it would be easy not to do that.
Yeah. Well, I do have to say, like, social media and, like, YouTube channels, like, it is really easy to be all smiles. You guys don't see the full picture of everything that happens. So that's the first thing. But I will say it's a blessing and a curse because like growing up, my mom always called me her sunshine girl. So that was a paradigm that was always put on me, is like, be the happy one. Like we don't want to worry about you, so just be happy so we don't have to worry about you. Um, Part of that comes naturally to me, and so it feels really good to be that way. And part of it is a fear response. I work with my clients personally on my life coaching business a lot, talking about different nervous system states that we go into. You might be familiar with fight or flight, maybe freeze. Most of us haven't heard of fawn. And fawn is that people pleasing, that if I can just help everybody else out there to be happy, then the danger will go away and I'll be okay. And so I spent a lot of time gaslighting myself about like this isn't that big of a deal. Like I don't have to worry about it. Like I can just, little healthy dose of toxic positivity in there. Like, it's all right. If I just ignore it, it'll be fine. But in the end, it was so disconnecting me from myself. And my true healing didn't happen until I got really pissed about everything that I'd gone through and everything that was happening. Because I just thought, I should be grateful for this kidney. I should be grateful for this. I should. Hello, shame. And not really breaking open and letting myself fully experience all of the emotions. And really, like, I needed to get really mad about the whole situation.
Once you got mad, what was the switch that flipped for you to proceed forward and let that anger happen but then continue forward?
Well, when I really got mad, it's funny. Like I had my kidney transplant. We can talk about this too if you want to, but I had what is called delayed graft function. So a lot of times people will get their kidney transplant and like they'll start producing urine like on the table while they're still open. That did not happen for me. My urine would go through this new transplanted kidney, but it wasn't filtering anything. It was just going through. And the medications that I was taking was making it so that my um, they're nephrotoxic. So nephro is kidney. So the medications I was taking were killing my native kidneys that were somewhat working. So it was just like this catch 22. And every day I would go in after the transplant and get my labs taken, and my kidney function was getting worse and worse and worse after this life-saving transplant.
It
So I
doesn't
was
feel
like,
so life-saving.
no, it didn't. And so, somebody's like, okay, like one of the fellows told me, I've seen it like go 3 weeks and, come back around. So 3 weeks came and went, and 4 weeks, and 5 weeks. And like every single day felt like an eternity. Like 24 hours has never felt so long in my entire life than during that time. Finally, 7 weeks came, and that's when my creatinine started to drop and kidney started to work. And there's, I've got all sorts of like theories about why that started to work after that. But the point is, as soon as my kidney was functioning, I was off my weight lifting restriction, which was 5 pounds for 3 months while I had a 1-year old.
Who weighs far more than 5 pounds.
And like basically couldn't, like, he was barely walking. Like he was just like a chunk and just does everything like very on his own table. We joke that he has the characteristics of a sloth. So my sloth baby. And my husband was getting a PhD at the time and we were living in student housing. So it was great. But as soon as all of those things were done, I mean, as soon as as soon as the weight lift restriction was gone, I was on a plane headed to Spokane, Washington for a life coaching event that I was like just going to get my brain coached out for a week. And I had no idea what to expect. But that's when we started talking about how I felt about my transplant. Um, I kept it hidden so well. I thought they were like, well, how do you feel about it after, a few days of talking about it? And I was like, I'm pissed. And they were like, we know. I was like, you did? I thought I was hiding that. We're not hiding that. And once I finally got to that point of like, yeah, I'm really mad about this, that's when it cracked open and I could let grief and sadness come to the front. Because I was so scared of feeling those emotions that I just wanted to push them away and pretend like they just didn't exist and I could just move forward and not have to handle that. And so, really getting acquainted with grief, getting acquainted with sadness, and not letting it mean that I was going to be sad forever or I was going to grieve forever. That different things are going to happen, different triggers might come up, and I would be brought back to that place of sadness or grief. But it didn't mean that my life was over and that I was, like I said, that I was going to stay stuck there forever. It actually was that's the thing that I love about emotions. The way I talk about them is that they're energy in motion. We get into trouble when we try to stop the emotion and stop the motion and the flow of that through your body because your body knows what to do. I just had learned how to not trust my body and to just disconnect from my body. So, really being reintegrated and re embodied with all of those emotions and welcoming all of them in, being willing to feel any emotion is what shifted everything for me.
You talked about going back to work or
Hmm.
becoming an entrepreneur.
Yes,
And you initially said, I was well enough that I was able to do that. And then you corrected
I
yourself
did correct
to
myself.
say, no, actually, I went back to work and then physically I started feeling better. Will you
Hmm.
talk a little bit about that and why you think that your body followed the lead?
Well, I joke because like I had the kidney transplant and then a few months later I caught a virus from my kidney and got sick from that, hospitalized, couldn't figure out what was going on. And then again, I got sick. And I had decided to go back to work as a speech language pathologist. That's my background before life coaching. And I thought I'd caught a stomach bug, went on a cruise, and I was like, okay, we're good. This is in 2019. Right before everything went crazy, the fall of 2019. And I had a job lined up. I had been a stay-at-home mom for 10 years. Like I kept wanting to go back to work. And I would line things up, and then I found out, boom, you're in kidney failure. Okay, I think I've navigated that. I figured that out. Boom. You're pregnant and kidney failure. Okay, going to back up and not go back to work right now. Okay, I think that I can figure this out. I figure out how to like be a mom, kidney failure. Like life is kind of chaotic and crazy, but I can do this like little entrepreneurial thing. Boom, kidney transplant. I was just like, what is going on? Like every time I try to go back to work, it's like huge thing coming up. So went on this cruise. We outran a hurricane in the Bermuda Triangle on the cruise. Like, you just can't make this kind of crap up.
I hope you bought a lottery ticket. That's
I
all I'm
know.
saying.
Like, we got to Bermuda, like, we're on there for a few hours, had to turn around, and I'm on the cruise ship, and I'm sitting in the middle of it, and I can look out the window either side, and I look, and it's like sky, ocean, sky for 3 days. And then I get off, and I was just so terribly sick. And I go to the hospital. They're trying to figure out what is going on. Find out that I have a parasite that like most people would clear out of their body from taking my kids to a water slide park because the transplant team had told me, go do whatever you want. You can do whatever. You don't have any restrictions. And finally figured out what was going on. And they gave me the antiparasitic. I had a job lined up right before I'd gone on the cruise. And I'm supposed to start this job, and I am literally at the hospital in the emergency room. And they finally figure out what's going on. They start to give me the medication. I'm starting to feel a little bit better. And I'm like, my husband has bought me for my birthday a ticket to go see my favorite band on the planet, which I don't know if you know this, it's Disturbed.
Okay. Okay. Did we just become best friends? Keep going.
Maybe. So, and I'm like, I got to get out of the hospital so I could go to this concert. And they're like, we don't know if you're well enough to do that. We're not quite sure. And I was just like, okay, well, we'll just wait and see. And they're like, okay, we think we can let you out. So they let me out, and I go to this Disturbed concert. I sing my like lungs out, like just like move that emotion through my body, like everything. Like I listen to their songs like after my transplant, especially The Light, like oh, just like over and over and over again. They pulled me out of some dark places. Sorry. And as I am getting home from this from this concert, it's like 2 in the morning. I turn around the next morning at 8 a.m. I started my job as a speech language pathologist.
That is dedication right there
Because
for
I thought
something.
I kept thinking all of these things are keeping me from going back and like and working. And I realized they were never keeping me back from that. And this point was for me to decide, how much do I want it? How much do I want it? And I was like, I could have done it before, but it wasn't the timing. But I just decided this is the timing now. This is it now. And I went to that job every single day. Like it was part time, it was like 20 hours a week. And everybody was just like, why do you love this job so much? And I'm like, I'm alive, guys. Like, I'm alive. I get to work. This is amazing. And like, everybody was so depressed about their jobs and always so low energy. And I was like, you don't get it. Like, we only get one shot. We only get one shot at this life. And I'm still here. I'm still kicking. I am doing something that just lights my soul on fire. And through that, from that last hospitalization, that was in the fall of 2019, it's 2023. I have never been hospitalized since. Even through COVID.
That's insane. I was
I
even at the
know.
hospital through COVID, so
I know. So, and that's not to say I haven't had like physical challenges and I did for a long time was able to say I haven't been to the ER, but I went to the ER this week and in January for something. But it the thing is, even though I've gone through those times when I'm like go to the ER, it's not I haven't been dropped so low either. Like I've learned that living into my purpose is healing for my soul. And I can tell when my body is like, hey, hold on, you're trying to overwork again. And I pull it back and I remind myself, this is a self-care practice for me to work. I will fully admit, like, I have a lot of privilege because my husband is in the military. Like, it is not a necessity for me to work. That is huge, huge. And a lot of people don't have that privilege. And I fully acknowledge that. Um, but I also come from a culture where most women are told to stay at home. And so it is actually counterculture for me to go out and work. So I'm like, it's like my little rebel in me. But as COVID hit, I ended up homeschooling my 4 kids because of being immunocompromised. And so my perspective changed, my life shifted. And when I had gone back as a speech therapist, I had been thinking about like really going in on a life coaching business. But I really had 2 choices to make. I was like, do I do life coaching? Do I go back and do speech? And I knew that if I chose life coaching at that point, before I'd gone back as a speech therapist, because I kept up my certification for a decade, I knew that I would always wonder if I had made that choice out of fear because I was worried that I would not be able to be a speech therapist, that I wouldn't be able to hack it. And so I was like, you know what? I need to go prove to myself that I could go do speech therapy and like really rock it and be amazing at it and then make the choice of which one I want to do. And so and I will tell you, like, I fully felt like I did not know what I was doing when I went back to that school. I worked at a charter school. I was filling in for somebody that was on maternity leave. And I would just research and try to figure stuff out. I was like, I'd never been in an IEP before, ever. And I had been trained and I was doing medical. I was doing tracheostomies and all like ventilator patients, all of that. So this was brand new to me. And I had moms coming up to me and they're like, "You're the best speech therapist we've ever had." Like, you don't know that I don't know what I'm doing, but I really did know. We discount what we know. And so we moved in December of 2020, and that's when I was looking at the upcoming year. And I was like, really, what do I want? Like if I knew I couldn't fail no matter which one I picked, which one would I pick? And I was like, life coaching, hands down. And so I went through and got the certification while I was homeschooling my kids, started the business while I was homeschooling them. It's just like, and still like super locked down, super quarantined while everybody else in Ohio is just living life normally, which again, like, I've got no judgment for other people. Everybody's got to choose what they're going to do. But for me, it just wasn't safe at that time with my health and all of the complications that were happening to kidney patients. Right after COVID hit, I called my doctor, my transplant team, and I was like, how serious should I be taking this? This is in March of 2020. And my doctor was like, well, we're about 50-50. And I was like, what does that mean? He's like, about 50% of the transplant patients that come in with COVID don't make it. I was like, what?
These are not
That's
good odds.
that's not an option for me. I've got
Mm-mm.
these kids and this husband and this life. I'm like, I know. So coming out of COVID, coming out of quarantine, um, I opened up my world a lot sooner than I probably was emotionally ready for because of the severe impacts it was having on my kids. They were literally coming up with a lot of mental health issues because of not being able to do the things that all of their friends were doing and moving to a new place where they were completely didn't have any connections. Thank heavens we have a good church community. So they had something that was virtual. Um, but it's just, in the midst of all of those things, I was like, there's something really beautiful going to come out of this. And for me, it's been starting my entrepreneurial journey and helping so many women.
One of the things you said that I picked up on when you were determining, am I going to do speech therapy or, start my business and coach, was which one would I do if I knew I could not fail?
Hmm.
And fear is what holds a lot of us back in a lot of different situations. And I experience that myself virtually every day. What allowed you to jump in and make that decision and push that fear aside and say, I'm doing this. This is what I want to do. I'm going for it.
I think the biggest thing was just really listening to spirit and intuition. And I'm a very spiritual person. I'm also a very religious person. I feel like they're different.
Agree. Agree.
But I've always considered myself very spiritual, and I felt led in my life in a lot of different capacities. And this one just felt like I was being led. And so really it like I said, it wasn't a decision made out of fear anymore. I'd felt that in the fall of 2019. I was like, could go either way. And I just wanted to dispel that to be able to prove to myself that I was capable of creating incredible results no matter what. And then decide on purpose and purposefully what it was I wanted to create intentionally. And just like I said, a lot of intuition, a lot of being led by spirit and saying, hey, if this is not the right path, redirect me. Redirect me and I will go a different direction. I'm just open and willing. And that's just how I've run my business. And um, like I said, whether you are, religious, spiritual, or universe, whatever, there is something bigger than all of us. I've had way too many experiences to ever deny that. And so part of me too is when I'm doing my business as well, is I will I will actually say this out loud. I'm like, God, this is your business. Like, bring the people who you need me to help. And because it's just it's never been about me, because if it was about me, I love you, but I wouldn't be doing this. Like, this is outside of my comfort level, and so that being led in that direction is what brings that confidence. It's not confidence in me, it's confidence in this is the path that I'm being directed on, and I'm going to walk it.
I love that. Let's just take a moment. Another mindset shift that I feel like you have been great at, that we chatted about during our first conversation, and I'll set this up because only we were there, nobody else was there, was we were talking about being immunocompromised
Yes.
because we both live in that world. We both take
Mhm.
similar medications that
Yeah.
affect our immune system. And
Mhm.
I said to you, yeah, I realize it, and I just know I'm gonna get sick, and that just is what it is, and I just accept it. And to me, that was like a positive way to approach things, was just
Mhm.
saying, well, this is gonna happen and that's okay. And you didn't say my thinking was wrong,
I know, I'm like,
necessarily.
what did I tell you?
What you said was, "Yeah, no, that's not how I live my life. I just kinda step up, I use extra hand sanitizer, or I wash my hands more, I try not to touch my face." Basically, your way is that, "No, I'm not going to assume these things are gonna happen and it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take the steps I can to prevent them from happening, and I'm gonna live my life not in fear and not in a place of accepting these potential negative outcomes."
Mhm.
And I love that. And I have to tell you, from that conversation, I have started the Shelby way, let's call
Oh.
it.
Ooh.
And I love it. And I would love for you to talk a minute about how you came to that mindset, and if it
Mhm.
was a shift from the old Claudia
Oh, yeah.
mindset to the Shelby mindset, and how you got there.
Yeah, totally. It's okay. So this is so much of what I talk about. Like I alluded to a little bit about the nervous system regulation. It's so easy to get into fight, flight, fawn, or freeze and not even realize it. Like, not even recognize that, oh, me, like, just being a little bit, like, having this, like, reaction is putting my body into an elevated, escalated nervous system state, which dysregulates your body. And being in that, and there's nothing morally wrong with it. Like, I've lived lots of my life that way. Like, even in the past 48 hours, like, I do this perfectly. But there's something that happens when you adjust to a trusting mindset. I trust myself implicitly because I have abandoned myself and my body so much, like, in the past, that I no longer do that. I do things to protect myself. I don't expect anybody else to protect me now, because I've had to get over that, because that's the society we live in. Nobody wants to do that anymore. So I got it. But I don't need them to, because the thing that I um I defer to is that I take excellent care of myself. I take excellent care of my body. And that thought is so powerful for me. And it's true. And again, like, this is a little Christian perspective. If it goes for you, great. If not, like, just drop it. Just take whatever you need from it. But I was really struggling with this when there was especially a lot of people that at church, like, in the height of COVID, they would not, they just were trying to get it so that nobody, um to take mask mandates down. So, um and it hurt me because I just felt like, oh, they don't care about me. Like, there's the 99 that are doing great, and then there's 1% that's not doing great, and the 99 can't, like, just chill for a second for the 1%. Like I said, take it or leave it. This was just my perspective. It's not right or wrong, but I was feeling really hurt by some of the members that I was going to church with. And I was reminded of Christ's last words that he said before he was crucified. He said, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." And the forgiveness was for me, it wasn't for them. But I just had to recognize other people, they don't get it. They're not trying to willfully hurt me, but Christ gets it. He's been there. He understands. And that's where my source is. That's where my hope is. And again, like if it's not Christ for you, like there's so many other belief systems. Take what works for you. That works personally for me. But in that, it brings peace. And peace and alignment and faith and trust are the opposite of being in the escalated fear states. And when you are in the trust and faith and this aligned state, that's when physically all of the components in your mind, body, and soul start to line up, and you are in a more coherent state, which is conducive to the rest and digest, rest and repair state. And so aligning more to that state than the fear state, that is something that I have absolute control over. So when I do feel like maybe I'm on the edge of something, I might be getting sick, I listen to my body first. I'm like, okay, like there's like a little scratchy thing. Okay, that's my body's cue that's like, hey, I need some extra rest and repair. So I am going to rest mindfully, and I'm not going to do it and beat myself up. I'm going to get into like whatever meditation, whatever prayer, whatever thing, and just allow myself to get into that aligned state that is so healing for my body. And I honestly credit that to healing after my transplant. When it wasn't working, I started doing that. And also whenever I've been around my family when they have had COVID and I have not gotten it. Being immunocompromised. I'm like, how is that possible? Um, but and I cannot say for definitively sure for anybody else, but for me personally, going into that trusting that my body wants to heal. When I am having, all of these different symptoms or things going on in my body, it's no longer a reason to be pissed at my body. It's a cue for me to love her better and love her more.
I absolutely love that, and you just gave me another shift to make because, I deal with a lot of chronic illnesses and my go-to is to jokingly but not jokingly say, "Ugh, my body just hates me.
I
My immune
know.
system
I
hates me."
know. I know.
And that's probably not good to say anymore. So, I'm gonna knock that off too. I'm gonna add that to my Shelby list. What else can you throw at people today in the form of tips and tricks that they can utilize to be a little bit more like you in that happy, productive, healthy state that you exist in?
Yeah. So I've got 5 tips for you. I'll just give them real quick.
Love it. Take your time.
First one being listen to your body. Like we just take this one for granted where we're like start to feel a tweak here or there and we're just like, "Oh, like I can just ignore that." It's just your body your mind speaks to you through thoughts and your body speaks to you through symptoms. So really listen to your body. The second one is to honor what you're going through. Like just be there with it. It's like, yeah. For me, I'm like right now I'm in the middle of doing a lot of blood draws. My kidney function is progressively like the toxin levels from my kidneys are progressively getting higher right now. They think it's because of my medication, but we don't know. And so I'm just honoring that, yeah, this totally feels scary to me right now. Like, of course it does. I'm honoring what I'm going through. I'm offering myself compassion and love. And I'm not telling myself, like, you should be grateful that this has lasted 5 years because deceased donor kidneys on average only last 5 to 7 years. Like, that's where my brain wants to go. And it's just like, no, of course this is hard. It's okay. I'm just going to love you through it. The third thing is to reach out for support and accept it. Yeah. My sweet racquetball ladies, when they heard about my leg, they were just like, the text threads went wild, and everybody's like, "What can I do? What can I do?" And I was like, "I'm fine. Like, I don't usually make dinner anyway. My husband usually makes dinner. We got grocery delivery. Like, it's not a big deal." And I had my sister and one of my close friends be like, "What the heck? You can't stand up right now. Go tell one of them yes." So the next person that said, "Can I bring you dinner?" I was like, "Yes."
Bring me a casserole. Yes.
She was like, "I'm so sorry." She's like, "I can bring you dinner. I'm gonna be out of the house all day. I'm so sorry. It's gonna be KFC or pizza." She brought
Okay.
us KFC and my kids went crazy. They were so excited because we don't typically eat out. Again, no shade on anybody that does, but like eating out, like it was such a treat for them. So she didn't even know how much joy she was bringing. Where she's like, "I'm so sorry, it's not like this home cooked beautiful meal." I'm like, "No, like seriously, like we eat home cooked almost all the time. This is a treat."
This is great.
So, and it can be really challenging to accept when people are saying, "What do you need?" And I will add too, before my transplant, when I just had my little guy and my three older kids were in school, um, I was not doing well. Like every other day, I was like on the couch for like an entire day, and then I could get up the next day, and then then it was bad. I couldn't even see how bad it was until I started to get healthy and realized this was very I was really, really sick. I had no clue how sick I was. And I made a promise to myself that if somebody asked if they could help me, I had to say yes. And if they didn't give me something specific, I gave myself 24 hours to get back with them and tell them something specifically that they could do to help support me. This was so hard.
I'm getting anxiety just thinking about it. So,
Oh,
yes.
I know. And so I was like, okay, but it really opened up my receiving muscle too, because so much we're like, no, like somebody will tell us a compliment. We're like, no, you're the best. Here you go, back to you. And now
Yes.
I'm like, nope, I just received that. So that's number 3 is reach out for support and accept it. The fourth one is check your perspective. I was at the dentist office this morning. My back molar, like just half of it fell out yesterday.
That's a normal
Half
thing to
my tooth fell
happen.
out. It's like, okay. Didn't have a cavity, nothing. I was eating a crepe that had a blackberry seed in it, and I tried to pull the blackberry seed out, and half my tooth came out.
Your tooth is
So
like, I'm done here.
it was done. So I was sitting in the chair with the lady that was doing my dental care, and tomorrow I'm supposed to. It's hilarious. Universe has a sense of humor because tomorrow I'm speaking about miracles and how miracles happen during challenging times. I see you. But I'm like, is this seriously even a challenge? Because come on. I called them yesterday. The dentist got me in first thing. My husband has dental insurance. I sat down. They like put on a numbing cream before they gave me a shot. Then before they gave me
Mhm.
the big shot, like hardly felt anything. They came in and just did everything. I was done. And the insurance paid for my filling. It wasn't even a crown. I thought it was gonna be a crown. It was a filling. And I was like, you either have a choice to look at something as like nothing is miraculous or everything is a miracle. And that's like a perspective I've been shifting as like instead of, ooh, the other shoe's gonna drop, just you wait. Like wonder what's gonna happen next. Like shifting to, I wonder what miracles I'm gonna see today. And like that lady that I was talking to, she shared some of her life experience. And I don't know, did she need to hear something that I had to say that day? I don't know. But I said to her too, I'm like, it's a miracle that I live in this day and age where I can get a tooth fixed in less than 24 hours. Go across the world in a third world country, that can't happen. There are people in this city where I live where that's not accessible to them. So, yeah, I can sit here and say like, "Oh yeah, this happened and this happened and this happened," but every single one of those situations that I've been going through recently, the torn calf muscle, the increased creatinine, the broken tooth, I can sit there and complain, but each one of those the scenarios, completely neutral. They're just facts. They're just consequences of living in a human body on this earth. The shift, the perspective that I take about it directly impacts the experience that I'm going to have. So check your perspective. Fifth thing is surrender. Just surrender. Like whatever your higher power source is, surrender to that, because we live in a friendly universe. Like there's not some boogeyman monster out there trying to get you, trying to teach you some lesson. There is just what's happening, and then we get to decide what we're going to make it mean about us. So that's my 5 tips. So listen to your body, honor what you're going through, reach out for support, check your perspective, and surrender to higher power.
And accept the support.
Accept the support. Amen.
Part 3B. Shelby, we're going to shift gears here real quick before I let you go. We are going to talk about tattoos. And this is the first time in I don't know how long that I'm wearing a short sleeve shirt. So you can actually see a lot of my tattoos. One of the tattoos I have that you can't see is I actually have some song lyrics from Disturbed.
What?
The Light. Yes.
What?
I do.
Oh, are we soul sisters?
I know. When you were saying that, I was like, oh my gosh. And I am very not flexible. I am like the antithesis of Gumby. If I could lift my leg up here and show you my ankle, or disconnect it and just hold it up, I would. But I cannot do that. But yes, I have around my ankle, sometimes darkness can show you the light, because that song also helped me through a very, very dark, no pun intended, time in my life. Now, I know that you do not have tattoos. I'm going to say yet, just because, there's always a chance. You're only 12 years old. So there's still a chance here. If you were going to get a tattoo, what would you get? Why? Where would you put it?
Okay. So with my religion, we don't get tattoos. That's why I don't have one, but I absolutely love them. That's my secret. If I were to get one, I actually have a secret Pinterest board of ones that I would like to get. But I love the words from Maya Angelou, where she says, "Still I rise." And that's one of my mottos that I just feel like. And so I'm like right here.
Okay. Are we allowed to get temporary tattoos? Is that acceptable?
I know. I'm like, I think I need a temporary tattoo there.
Yes. Okay. I love that. Mm-hmm. Shelby, where can people find you? So if they have resonated with you as I have and want to check in with you on coaching, if they want to help you find your first temporary tattoo, where can people find you?
It's so good. So I hang out on Instagram a ton. It's called I'm at Shelby Creates a Beautiful Life, which that might be changing. My username might be changing. I'm doing a lot of rebranding stuff around energy. So, but I also have a podcast. It's called the Get Your Energy Back podcast. And you can find me at my website, shelbykhansen.com. It's Hansen. And yeah, that's where I mostly hang out. I do, I've got a monthly workshop that I do for free. So those are some of the ways that you can find me. But yeah, I hang out on Instagram all the time.
I love it. And what I hear you saying is that people should follow you now so that if you rebrand and change that handle, they'll already be in the Shelby family.
Yes. Oh, also, I do have a YouTube channel. Not as prolific as yours is, but I do have YouTube. So you can find my podcast, the live version of it, on YouTube as well.
Right on. Shelby, you have been amazing. I so appreciate your time today. I know that so many people are going to get so much out of what you had to share. And yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for this opportunity. It's been incredible meeting you.
If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and follow us on social media so you'll never miss what's going on. Remember, until next week, you are strong enough, you are worth it. Thank you for listening to the Strong Enough podcast. You can find us on your favorite podcast platform by searching Strong Enough. And on YouTube, we're on the Spear Talk channel. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Strong Enough Pod. If you have suggestions for an upcoming episode or a future guest, please reach out at strongenoughpod@gmail.com. Remember, you are worth it.